What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Bert of CHUNK, no Captain Chunk. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. Chunk, no Captain Chunk is officially back now. Your first album since 2015, Gone Are the Good Days. Being that this is a comeback album after taking a hiatus, did you consider this just the appropriate continuation of Get Lost, Find Yourself, or did you think that this is really a new beginning for the band in a way?
Um, I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. It's different. I guess for the very first time with this album, we kind of like took the time to make things good. I mean, we did things very well and the best we could on our last albums, but this time with more experience and especially more time because of COVID, we kind of like wanted this. We had like very high expectations, and we wanted this one to be like perfect and exactly the way we wanted, and try to like, yeah, optimize all of those little things we could not actually focus on while we were in the studio for the previous albums. So I guess this one is more like that's funny because it's more like finding ourselves more than our third album, which was called Get Lost, Find Yourself. So I think, yeah, this one is more like what is Chunk? Where do we want to go, and what could be what we would like to do in 2020. The thing that's kind of like complicated in our style of music is in such a niche genre, it's hard to always come up with something fresh. Um, you know, it's very challenging actually. So actually at this point we were like, okay, let's try. I don't know. Let's make something fresh. I don't know, something that sounds interesting and new, and that can bring something new on the table for that scene in general. And I think that's what we accomplished with this record. And yeah, we just released one song so far, but I guess when people will be able to hear the second one, the third one, they will understand the kind of creative environment we were going for with this album.
So it's fair to say that the singles that we've heard so far, such as Bitter, is like maybe like that's not really just a representation of what the entirety of Gone Are the Good Days is going to sound like, right? There's a lot more to be heard and a lot more to be discovered on it, right?
Absolutely. I think each song on the album kind of like stands on its own. It's and at first, I'm pretty sure at the first listen, people would be like, "Oh, that's kind of like all over the place." It's like too much information, too much diversity, because that's the thing about this album. It's very diverse. There's a lot of different stuff and experimentation in stuff, but it's still very chunk. It's still like it has like that chunk vibe, chunk flair to it. And I think this will please our like diehard fans, but also the people who never got into our music before, maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, I think really it's a great time for a new Chunk album as well, because I've always thought that you guys really were a boundary breaking band. Like I was able to see you like on a metalcore tour with a band like August Burns Red or Parkway Drive, but with bands nowadays like Dance Gavin Dance or Crown the Empire or Set It Off or Grayscale Killing It, I could really see you like being on multiple types of tours with multiple types of bands in a way. I think like you would be the perfect band to represent the many different directions that the genre has moved into.
Yeah, I think our band has always been kind of like in between those different like genres that are that makes that scene so particular, like which is like pop punk and metal. We've always been in between, and it got us at some point. It got us a bit of hate, and like not people talking shit, but they were like, oh, they're not enough pop punk or they're not enough metal. They're kind of like playing with both, and I guess we've been kind of like it's built for some people. It's probably been our music is kind of something weird, but I guess with this new album, I really hope that these people will kind of like give us another shot, and maybe I'm pretty sure, honestly, like, I'm pretty sure this album will please all different kind of crowd, honestly. And like you said, we've been on different tours. We've been on the metal tours, on the pop punk tours. We've done like all different kind of stuff, and I think in the end, everybody was very happy with like our music again. So I guess yeah. I think Chunk is still gonna be Chunk, and yeah, it's just us trying different things, and especially with this new album. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, from every album that you have, whether it is Something for Nothing or Part of My French or Get Lost, Find Yourself or this new album, I feel like you were damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like, your heaviest song to the metal crowd would have made you guys, it's like Share to them, but like your most radio-friendly song to the pop punk crowd is like Emperor to them. So yeah. I think in the end, like, you almost have to just go with your gut instinct, and I think you really do that. And that's what I really feel like Gone Are the Good Days are. It is almost kind of like a good representation of all the different styles you had and the best sides of all of them.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate that comment, and I honestly feel, because that's kind of like what we try to accomplish with that. I think like when I think of like our previous albums, we always had like kind of like one state of mind for each single one. I guess Something for Nothing was just like having fun. I guess having fun and writing, some crazy shit with like crazy lyrics as well. I think Pardon My French was going like bipolar, like you said, very heavy but very pop at the same time, like kind of like going extreme both ways. I think Get Lost, Find Yourself was trying to sound more mature, trying to, feel like, we grew up a little bit. And I think this one is more like all of that in one album, like all of those different things in one album. And I honestly think people will get it. It's just the way, like you said it, like. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm excited. I just can't wait to show the world this album.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You know what you should do is, now that because you're back and Attack is also back, we need to make that double reunion tour happen. That would be a sick way for Return to Live music, because as I mentioned before, when you were releasing your stuff, Something for Nothing, for example, that came out when I was a sophomore in high school, and like Attack was also huge at that time. So like we call it like the high school reunion tour or something like that.
All right, yeah, that we toured with Attack in 2012. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, 2012. So 9 years ago, and I think it was our very first like big like club tour in the United States. And I don't know, like we were like so excited because I think I also grew up with that kind of band and with that scene, and when we got that tour offer, I just like fucking like freaking out, But let's make that happen for sure.
Absolutely. As a vocalist, kind of going into like your songwriting process and everything, but like as a vocalist, have you always needed to hear the music before you would write any lyrics, or do you sometimes have a lyrical idea that could influence the sound itself?
So honestly, like I don't think there's like any recipe to writing good songs. I guess what's really important to me is what's the trigger, what's gonna trigger your creativity on one track, like. So sometimes it can be like a guitar riff, and sometimes it can be like a vocal melody. But honestly, like I've seen myself doing like going both ways, like having that starting point with like I had the chorus in mind before writing anything, just the melody, like the vocal melody before anything else. But yeah, for example, when I think of some songs, like for example like Haters Gonna Hate, I remember that the starting point for that song was the riff with the tan, tan, ta, 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 ta. Like that riff was kind of like triggered the whole song was written around that riff. Um, so yeah, honestly, with more experience now, I would say that um, the chorus and the vocal melody should always, come first, because that's what people will remember. But I would also add to that in our style of music, the guitar work is so important. It's so much like part of the song that, like I said, it's sometimes in some situation it makes sense to have that to have that riff in mind, and you will write the whole song based on that riff. It's weird, but it's kind of like it's specific to the kind of music we're playing, because I don't think there's any other style of music where, I mean, beside metal or all those like rock genres, but like if you look at like pop music or dance or even like, I don't know, whatever, but it's like the vocals will always come first. So yeah, honestly, like I said at first, I don't think there's any recipe to write good songs, but yeah, I think what I really learned throughout the year is the fact that, yeah, the most important thing should be the lyrics, should be the vocals. It's that's the main thing.
Absolutely. And do you like to leave your lyrics open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener into like the context of the song as much as the song itself?
So I like our lyrics to be very open. So like anyone can relate to what we say. Um, what's funny is though it's that, for example, the song is not out yet, but the song that's called "Gone Are the Good Days" um, basically was about us remembering the life on tour. um, it was basically, the song was about us being a band and not touring anymore. And what's funny it's that um, we wrote that song before COVID happened, and we kind of like turned things around a little bit with the lyrics, and so everyone could relate to that, to the fact that, you can remember the good old days and like feeling good about it, and um, yeah, those kind of like memories that will cheer you up. So in the end, that song, I think everybody can relate to that song, especially right now with that COVID happened.
I was
Um,
wondering if the album title was inspired by this situation that the whole world has been going through.
well, yeah, the funny thing is that no, actually, like the idea at first was not about the pandemic, but yeah, I think it makes even more sense now.
Uh, God, you reunited and the whole world ended. See what you did? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I think it's amazing on how like music though does develop more context. Like there were a lot of albums that came out in 2020 but were being worked on in 2018, 2019 and stuff that like make way too much sense nowadays. Like Heaven Shall Burn's newest album pretty much predicted everything that unfolded from the pandemic to the
Sure.
unrest to
Yeah.
the corruption and all that stuff. So I think it's great that you were able to kind of like use a personal experience for the band that kind of, it feels like your story as a band almost served as a metaphor to what everybody is going through at the moment.
Absolutely, and it's insane because, like even the song that's been released a couple of days ago, "Bitter," like this one makes so much sense right now. And again, this one was written before the pandemic, so it's I don't know, it's crazy. It feels like it's been all over the place. Like we got like ideas like all over the place, and we put all of them together in that album, and it all like make total sense right now for everyone. It's crazy.
Yeah, and art gains life on its own as it moves forward. So like when you release it out, art tends to grow and develop and live and interact with other people. I think that this album is a good representation of that. It's not going to take that long for people to relate to this album.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good. That's good then. If that's what happened, that's awesome. I'll be
Yeah.
so happy.
I just hope that the title of the album doesn't come true. Gone are the good days. I would have preferred if it said delayed are the good days, but you know.
So I think because yeah, I saw some comments written about the title, and I guess a lot of people, exactly like you said, are interpreting this as a kind of like a sad fact, you know.
Pessimistic in a way.
But you know what's funny is that it's that was not the idea, and I really hope that I will be able to talk more about it with like on press and because I need to. It has to be clear that that album was not. It's not thinking that the future is gonna suck. We're like what's ahead is like dark days, and it's actually remember the good thing, and you know remembering how like all the positive thing to make you feel better right now. But it's not. It doesn't mean that yeah we're going for you know like a dark future. I don't know how to say that, but it's positive nostalgia, but it's not really. We're not talking about the future. That makes sense.
One comment I saw was, "Oh my God, is Chunk now officially a doom metal band? Like,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
gonna get on that Paradise Lost tour or something like that."
yeah.
But now one thing I wanted to ask you is you know I've yet to see Chunk live, and I hope that does change with this new album and hopefully this godforsaken pandemic ending. But like when it comes to your live shows, is there maybe a similar energy that you channel into the mic on stage as you do when you're in the vocal booth or writing lyrics, or do you consider playing live and songwriting two completely separate arts altogether?
Yeah, you know, um, live is always a little bit challenging for me because you know I'm doing kind of like double duty, like the streaming and the singing. So it's you know when I write the song and you know when I record them, I always have you know the live performance in mind, but sometimes I have to make some like compromise because it can be very challenging for me like physically that can be pretty hard. But you know I think the most important thing, and that's the one thing I'm focusing on while I'm on stage, is I want to make sure that I'm doing like my performance go with like the emotion and the energy that the song want to translate, you know, um, and um, and I'm trying my best to make sure everybody in the room, every single room, even the one that's like at the bar, can actually understand that, you know. So I'm trying to live my lyrics pretty much, and if you look at and if you listen to our songs while looking at the lyrics, you know, like usually it'll make sense. If I'm going angry, it's for a reason. So so yeah, and again, it's one thing that's been always challenging for me because again, it's very physical. But that's really what I'm trying to communicate, and you know, I hope people get it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the emotional elements because, like, let's say you write a song that is from like a very dark place or a very angry place, and you know you express that into your lyricism and into the song itself. But then you go and replicate it live. I mean, you're a different person that day than you were the day that you wrote it. So do you almost kind of like have to bring back that anger, or kind of like find another source for that same emotion in a way to replicate that?
Well, it's true that you know when you're especially when you're on big tour for it, like for example us, we've been on tour like I remember we had this tour in the U.S. and it was like 3 months long, you know, like, and it was we had like almost no days off, you know, that was insane. Well, you can have your first show like everybody's fresh and you can like perform exactly the way you want it every like, but it's true that after a couple of weeks you're getting tired, and obviously like it's when I say it can get physical, that's you know it's where you know um, you're getting really tired, like you and there's like days where you don't even want to get on stage, you know, because you're so freaking tired. But that's where you gotta find a way to kind of like replicate that same like true emotion with, you know, you gotta trick your own mind, if that makes sense, you know. And you know, for example, you know, it's very stupid, but I hope hopefully that makes sense. For example, me, when I, you know, when the part is like, for example, like building up into like a very angry part, you know, what I'm doing basically, it's very like, it's subtle, but like I'm just like squishing the microphone in my hand, so I'm like all tense, and you know, that kind of like make me more, yeah, like angrier and angrier, and I don't know, that kind of stuff. But anyways, it's little things, but in the end, you gotta do the show, and you gotta, you know, be persuasive, and the crowd has to, you know, understand that you're not faking anything.
Yeah. Well,
That makes
I consider your music anything but fake. I'll tell you that. I hear the emotion behind it. The music's fun to listen to. So, you know, I get a vibe from it. So I don't consider, I've considered your music to be many things, but I would never ever consider it to be fake. And so I think you already succeed in that. And, you know, because I've talked to artists who do write from like angry places or very deteriorating places, and like I'm like, you know, it's great that you channel your raw emotion and energy into it, but like, you know, does that sometimes like make it hard to reproduce live because you don't want to put yourself back in? It's like I've heard a quote saying, what spawned your most amazing song is an emotion that you don't want to go back to sometimes.
all right. Yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, I see. And yeah, that makes total sense. The thing is, like us, I don't think, for example, I cannot think of a song that we play live, and you know, that's kind of like, that is being painful for me to perform, because it's too, I don't know, the lyrics are, I don't know, yeah, too painful. I,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cannot find the right words, but you get the idea. Yeah, I think usually the song we play live are the ones that, you know, we know people will react well and everything, but that's also in consideration of what we are comfortable with playing.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, I don't know why, but the last like month or so I've been interviewing tons of bands from France lately. But like started being that the band did start in Paris. You know, when it comes to metal bands or rock bands in France, you know, people are going to think of bands like Gojira, for example.
yeah.
But I was very curious that like it almost seems like for this sort of like pop punk or like, you know, this metalcore or whatever style, that there almost seems to be like a good scene that originates from France, such as Betraying the Martyrs. There's a great new band called Landmarks that is kind of in that style now. So like, was there kind of like a scene that you were involved with when the band first started, or was the goal to just get out of Paris as quick as possible and try to play to different audiences?
I honestly, I think we never ever tried to make it in France. Actually, even like, even at the very beginning, because for example, our first tour was in the UK. We never even like the first time we toured France was like in 2016, which was like pretty much the end of the album cycle for Get Lost, Find Yourself. So way later. But yeah, like you said, there's a scene though. There's like a few bands, and you mentioned Landmarks, which funny is that it's our guitar player is now playing guitar in Landmarks, so
Oh
he's
wow.
doing double duty. So yeah, there's a scene. The problem, I think, the main problem we have here in France, it's the fact that we don't have, like, there's no independent label, or there's no structure to, you know, make those like bands you know, evolve and grow up actually. So for example, I think Landmarks is signed on that label called Rising Empire from Germany. So, but I guess all those bands, even if they're like really good, they're like mainly developed in mainland Europe. I don't think there's a chance for them to tour the US, for example. Even if that would be great for them, but unfortunately, yeah, that's the main problem we have with like French bands, and some of them are very 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 talented, and and yeah, but anyways, I think France has never been the country of rock and roll in general, so
Well,
yeah.
I've been pitching this to every band that I've interviewed from France. I've interviewed so many of them this time. I just interviewed a Fractal Universe as well. One band, the best French metal band in the world will be the band that plays a show in the Paris catacombs. That needs to happen.
All right.
Yeah, please figure out a way to rig a sound system down there. We need to make a show happen down there.
There's like you can actually sneak in, maybe not the catacombs, but you can actually get close to that, because there's like ways to get in those like underground with like there's like some hidden ways to get in, and I know some friends who actually knows all those little paths to get there. But yeah, sure, okay, I'll write it down.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a dedicated promoter out there who would do it.
Oh yeah, sure.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with the release of the new album? Like, obviously, thanks to the certain virus that shall not be named, obviously shows aren't happening at the moment, but obviously when this all subsides, we'll be seeing Chunk on the road quite a bit, right?
Yeah. Honestly, first of all, I'm very, very amazed, and it makes me feel really good how to see how well received Bitter has been, the first song, and I just can't wait for everyone to listen to the rest of the songs we're gonna release before the album will drop, and I think once this album is released, I really hope everybody can, understand the idea behind this whole thing, and can actually listen from start to finish this entire album, because honestly, I think that's the best way to experience that album, is to listen this from like A to Z. But yeah, and I just can't wait to get back on the road. We'll see what happens. I just hope life will get back to normal, but as soon as we get the opportunity to get back to the US, we will be on stage there for sure.
And we will welcome you with open arms. Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Chunk, no Captain Chunk. Be sure to check out their new album, Gone Are the Good Days, coming out this July via Fearless Records. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.